Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the MTG Goldfish Podcast. Happy New Year, everyone. Episode 102. The crew is here with you. Chaz, as always, covering the financial aspect of Magic the Gathering, as well as just everything Magic the Gathering related. Joining me is Richard.
Hey, Chaz. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Also joining us, Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, our resident jank brewer and all-around Magic the Gathering content creator. What is up, Seth?
What's up, guys? Not much. Do you have a good New Year's?
Yep, starting it off strong on all fronts, I think. Sports-related, Aether Revolt related, which we will get into. So you can find us on Google Play, iTunes, and now on YouTube. So welcome, everyone, from YouTube. If you haven't asked before, well, now you have the audio. And you can find us, as always, on mtggoldfish.com. So, on the docket today, we have just a ton of Aether Revolt stuff to talk about. We have about 6 or 7 cards that we want to highlight specifically. We have a couple of just cards that, have new mechanics or mythics, and that's usually what we do. So, coupled with that, we have a bunch of fish mail to address. So, it's going to be a pretty awesome way to ring in the new year. So, let's get going with Aether Revolt.
All right, let's start off with the spoilers we got last week with the last of the inventions. So these two cards are Aether Revolt inventions, and they're also brand new to Aether Revolt. So we'll start off with Planar Bridge, 6 converted mana cost, legendary artifact, 8 generic mana, tap it, search your library for a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So Planar Portal on steroids directly onto the battlefield. What do you guys think?
Well, I really like this card. I don't think it has much potential for constructed formats or tournament formats. It's just so expensive. 6 mana to cast is a lot, 8 more to activate, so this is pretty much all you would be doing. However, I think it has a lot of potential in Commander. So Planar Portal, which just is obviously kind of a callback to, is very similar. It costs 2 less mana to activate the ability, the same amount to cast, and that does see play, especially in big mana strategies in Commander. So I think if you're playing Planar Portal, you just automatically slot this in. It doesn't fit in every Commander deck, but if you're ramping and planning on casting big stuff anyway, I have a hard time imagining not putting Planar Bridge in my deck. Otherwise, in Standard, you would just Aetherworks Marvel. There's not really any reason to spend so much mana and so much work to get something when you have Aetherworks Marvel available. And in other formats, it's just way too expensive. But in Commander in specific, I think this is a pretty solid card.
Yeah, I agree with you, Seth. I mean, in Standard, you likely have better options in Aetherworks Marvel. I'm sure they wish that the text on Aetherworks Marvel matched the text on Planar Bridge, so you don't get the cast triggers, but it is what it is. I'm getting there with my EDH and / Commander expertise. I as enthusiastic about it, but I can see, obviously, it's just like that kind of super top end, really fun card to play in those formats. I don't know if you jam this in every single Commander, deck. It certainly seems really fun, to say the least, and I can see where, like you said, if you're ramping or if you have an artifact-based list that can produce a lot of mana, obviously this can just be a really great top-end card to invest a lot of mana and just keep pulling cards out of your deck. And I also agree with you on the constructed applications. It's just way too much mana. Again, yeah, it seems pretty cool in casual formats.
I think I'm going to disagree with you guys here and say Planar Portal, the original card, is actually better than Planar Bridge. I can't think of many permanents in EDH that you slap down and win the game. The majority of them will be spells. And the portal is basically just a demonic tutor that you can keep using turn after turn. And you can grab the big spells you need to finish the game. Whereas Bridge, I think the best card you can put in play is probably Omniscience. Putting a creature into play doesn't really do much. So I think the fact that you can get spells with the other card makes it actually better. And it just costs less. It's 6 instead of 8. So I actually think they don't, it's not just a direct replacement for the Portal, but they actually serve different purposes. And I think Portal is here to stay. I think it has enough uses. Because usually you want to get something big, like, I don't know, a Genesis Wave or something, rather than just get a single creature. Because I can't think of a single card that would just lock up the game right there for you.
I mean,
Sorry, go
Omniscience
ahead.
is pretty good.
Omniscience is pretty good. We've been wrecked by
there,
Omniscience before.
there has to be better ways to get omniscience than this, right? Like you have the tutor, you have the card from Urza. Oh, I can't remember the card now. The creature
Yeah, I mean,
herbalist.
you can show and tell and stuff like that. Is show and tell
Right.
even
Yeah.
legal? It's probably a bad idea in Commander to show and tell, by the way.
Yeah, probably.
But the idea is it's repeatable. You could do it more than once, or if you have like Voltaic Key, you have untap shenanigans, you can like tutor multiple cards. So that's where the value is.
I mean, I love me some planar portals, so that's always been a old school card that I can relate with. But
So serious
those were
question
being
here.
open in packs.
What is the bridge for? Is this where the Phyrexians run through and like wreck Kaladesh? Like, what is this bridge
You
for
know, that
in
was
the story?
actually I was actually going to bring that up. Do you feel like this is kind of an intricate story like placement card, like they're portals, and that's how we get to other planes now,
That's
or they're like weird like crossover plane stuff?
it's obviously how Emrakul and the rest of Eldrazi show up on Kaladesh.
All right.
Uh.
So moving on, we have the other new artifact, Paradox Engine. So 5 generic mana, legendary artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control.
Oh, this card is absurd.
Yes, it is.
So I played a deck recently that was built around putting Dramatic Reversal, which is a one-shot of that effect on Isochron Scepter, so you could repeatedly do it by untapping the Isochron Scepter, and this does it all in just one card. It's not janky. I don't know where this is broken. I haven't really tried to brew with it yet, but I am very confident this card is going to lead to degenerate combos in Modern, in Commander, maybe even in Standard. So I'm super high on it. I just don't know exactly the right pieces.
Well, I know in Standard we have Cryptolith right there, so that in and of itself can start something. And 5 mana, it seems like a lot, but with Cryptolith right, you can get this out like conceivably like turn 3. I mean, as early as that, and as long as you have a way to keep cycling through your deck and or start some sort of combo, maybe with like Duskwatch Recruiter, that's still in Standard. So I think this has a legitimate shot, at least for a while. We would have to see like continuous cards as they come out, but at least for right now until October, we have cards that can build around this, and it doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah, this card is super scary. If anyone has ever got wrecked by combo elves anywhere, the 1 mana 2/2, Nettle Sentinel that's so unassuming, it just untaps when you cast a green spell. Paradox Engine does this for all of your cards. And with Cryptolith Rights, that means you can generate tons of mana. It untaps mana rocks. It untaps all kinds of things. Voltaic Key, if you want to get super, super combo-y. And I can't see how this is a good idea. I can't think of something that's broken in Modern, but there's got to be some combo in Modern. Standard, there'll probably be some combo with this, and this just seems like a big no-no. It seems like it's one of those, when Wizards prints like cost reduction cards like rituals, you're like, it's a ritual, you save 3 mana, how bad can it be? And it always leads to broken things. Well, untapping everything you control seems like one of those things. Throw it in there with Dredge, Delve, whatever. It seems like it's going to be a broken mechanic. And I'm waiting to see how Modern is affected by this. We'll see. Maybe it's too slow at 5 mana, but for sure there'll be some weird combo to go off, especially with any of the card drawing cards. So things like, we're actually going to get to them, but SRAM, where you can draw cards when you cast a spell, that finishes the combo and lets you get infinite mana, infinite cards. So it'll be interesting.
Now, in Modern, we had like Jeskai Ascendancy, people trying to brew around that card. I feel, since this is colorless, this has to be easier to brew around, right? Like Jeskai Ascendancy, you still need Jeskai colors to play it, right? So
I was
like,
just thinking about
really
that.
It can really be, well, it's much better, I think.
So
I mean, even at 5 mana.
Yes, it's definitely better at the untapping part. So also the upside is you can untap mana rocks or so forth. Like in standard, we're talking about going infinite or whatever with creatures. In modern, you have mind stones and signets and all that stuff, which is much more resilient than creatures that die to lightning bolt. So that's an upside. The downside is Jeskai Ascendancy actually kills the opponent. Not only does it loot, but it also pumps up your creatures. So it does everything all in one card. Not only is it the enabler, but it's also the finisher because your creatures get +1/+1. You keep drawing cards. So this requires a little bit more work, but it kind of makes up for that, at least to some extent, with adding more flexibility in what it actually can do. So I don't know how to weigh that out exactly, if one is better than the other. I do know that, like, if you're playing Jeskai Ascendancy, you wouldn't just remove your Jeskai Ascendancies and slot this into the Jeskai Ascendancy slot because it wouldn't do everything you need to do to win the game.
Quicksmith Rebel.
Oh dear.
There we got it.
If that cycle sees play because of this card, oh boy.
No, there has to be like ping, tap.
I'm gonna say
That's
standard
just so easy.
is probably gonna be okay because Wizards probably actually tested this card, but all the other formats, I'm gonna say they didn't test it that well. So we might actually see something happen in modern.
Yeah.
Modern is where something most likely would occur for this card.
In a format where Simian Spirit Guide is legal, anything's possible.
The other lesson, and this isn't any of our formats, so we probably can't speak on it too much, but pretty much any random artifact is playable in Vintage because you have lands that tap for 3 artifact mana.
That's
so
true.
there
That's
could
true.
be something
Yeah.
there. I don't know enough about Vintage to say
Right.
how it would work, but it seems like if you can cast this like on turn 1 consistently, there's probably ways you can win the game on turn 1 with Moxen and just go infinite like immediately.
Yep, because you get to untap your Moxen.
Yes, you do, and you're like your Grim Monoliths and stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
So I wouldn't be surprised if
yes.
there's some turn 1
Oh.
kills in Vintage.
There has to be, yeah. You just crack a Lotus, got a couple mocks, and you're good to go.
All right. Let's
yeah,
move on
this is-
to maybe some more reasonable cards here. We got Gonti's Aether Heart, 6 generic mana, legendary artifact. Whenever Gonti's Aether Heart or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you get 2 energy. Pay, what is this, 6 energy? 1, 2, 3, 4,
7.
5, 6, 7. It's really hard to count energy on these cards. I don't know if anyone else has this problem where they just list like a billion energy
It's
symbols.
8 energy. Sorry.
All right, we got the official count, 8.
Yes, 8. It gives you 2. It gives you 2. Gives
Pay
you
8 energy. Exile Gonti's Aether Heart. Take an extra turn after this one.
You know what I don't like about this card? It doesn't read Saffron Olive's Aether Heart. This has to be your card. Did they like secretly talk to you about this card? You can admit it on the cast now. Like, did they consult you about this? Like, yes, Wizards, I do want a take an extra turn card that is energy based.
Oh, they didn't ask me about it, but I'd like to think they probably thought of me as they were designing it, I hope. So, because this is my card. There's, apart from Blood Mooning people, there's nothing I like more than taking extra turns, and this is a really sweet way of doing it because it's colorless, which offers so many different possibilities. Like normally you got to be in blue, and 6 mana is pretty close to the going rate for an extra turn anyway. But having this be a colorless effect is really exciting, and it just got spoiled this morning. So again, I haven't got to brew with it yet, but I fully expect that when we look back on Aether Revolt a year from now, this might be the card that I played most out of all the cards in the set, because for some reason that tends to happen with me in extra turn cards.
Yes, definitely expecting against the odds. Aether Heart list coming to a YouTube video near you. But this is interesting. I mean, you can actually do some really weird stuff with this too, like Saheeli Rai. You can copy the artifact and you can get another 2 energy. So who knows? I think there's good ways to get to the 8 energy, but
you can't copy it. It's legendary.
Yeah, but you
You
would
copy
still
it
get
for
the trigger.
2. Yeah, you just get 2 energy. Yeah.
Right.
They've made
Right.
sure you
Which
can't
is-
abuse
yeah.
it. You have to exile it.
Yes.
It's legendary. You can't loop it. No Academy Runes shenanigans here.
I know you like taking extra turn sets, but wait, what about it? Even in standard, like, does it just feel good to like take an extra turn, drop a land, and just say go? Like, does that's still like you still feel satisfied after that?
Usually I'm doing something in that extra turn
Oh, okay.
more than playing a land.
Fair enough.
I will say though in standard again, and I've said this multiple times now, when you got Aetherworks Marvel, that for less energy and less mana just wins you the game and steals your opponent's turn with Emrakul, it's going to be a really tough road for this to see like tier play in standard.
Well, you can Aetherworks Marvel into the Aether Heart, so.
Oh, that's
yeah. See, you got where the wheels are turning already. I've
that's
thrown it. Got Glint Crane. I think you got it. You got something brewing. I know it.
That's got to be almost as good as just winning the game on the spot with Emrakul.
They show an Emrakul. You show Gonti's Aether Heart. Gotcha.
They're gonna steal my turn, are you? I'll show you.
All right, let's move. So that was a mythic, by the way. So let's move all the way down to uncommon. Probably the card that's generated the most excitement in non-standard formats. Fatal Push. 1 black. The picture is of a guy kicking a guy off a skyship. Actually, maybe it's Aetherborn. I can't tell. Maybe it's an Aetherborn kicking a guy. Instant. Destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. Revolt, new keyword, destroy that creature if it has a converted mana cost 4 or less instead if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn.
Oh, wow. This is probably better than some of the mythics that we were talking about. This is Aether Revolt, and he just pushes him off.
Oh, I didn't even roll. Wait, first,
I mean,
is a kick
insane.
A push? Really, seriously.
Look,
this looks like
he's pushing him.
a flavor fail. Like,
Yeah. We'll just say he kicked him for our purposes.
But I
So
think
it
you just
matches up.
spawned like 8,000 altars there. This is Aether Revolt.
Yes, I did it. See? Just remember to tag me when you do the altar, okay? Just to,
So
Richard, this has to be like one of the better cards for formats outside of standard in like what? Since Monastery Swiftspear?
Yeah, so I think rip Disfigure. I don't think you would ever play Disfigure ever again now that Fatal Push is a thing. Kills basically everything, right? Tarmogoyf, Bob, Nicodles, Swift Spheres, Pyromancers, Snapcaster Mages for 1 black. So it does everything Disfigure would do and more. And in older formats, you can just sack a fetch, and then now you can kill Kalidas, Huntmaster, all of those cards. So it's really strong. Now, would it replace Lightning Bolt or Path to Exile? I don't think so. But it would go where Disfigure would go, or if you needed more removal. It is conditional. Sometimes, if your opponent is playing Lantern Control, like what are you going to do with Fatal Push? But, Lightning Bolt, you can bolt their face at least. So there's arguments, would you pay 1 more mana for Terminate, for an Abrupt Decay? Other removal, even Doomblade or Victim of Night. So there's arguments there, but I think it's good enough to see play in certain scenarios. Definitely Sultai colors, those decks that don't have access to Path and Bolt, the 1 mana removal, would play this. 1 mana removal is a big deal, and cracking a fetch to remove a force CMC creature seems pretty good. So I expect to see this card in Modern, Legacy, in some form. I don't think it'll be the replacement to Lightning Bolt, but I think we'll see it show up.
I mean, is this the black Lightning Bolt or Swords to Plowshares? Is
Definitely.
it
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like Richard said, Disfigure, rip Disfigure. I mean, that has to be. I mean, even there was like Ulcerate before. I mean, there's just been so many misses. I mean, yeah, this has to be the equivalent of Swords to Plowshares, Lightning Bolt, whatever you want to compare it to.
Well,
this is definitely Black's
all
version.
of those other cards have a secondary purpose if your
Right.
if your opponent is not playing creatures.
Right.
So with Path, you can actually gain life, which is sometimes actually relevant to path your own creature to not die. Or not path, swords. You can path your own creature to ramp yourself, also relevant. And you can bolt your opponent's face. Whereas Fatal Push, if your opponent's not playing a creature, this card literally does nothing.
True. True.
I think there's a huge argument that in Modern, you would play this over Dismember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm looking...
If you're a black deck, but if you're a non-black deck...
Right.
I'm looking at the Modern format right now, the most played cards, and it literally hits like 90% of cards. Like the list of things it doesn't hit is incredibly small. And this is assuming you have fetch lands, which you always do in Legacy and Modern. It's like Reality Smasher, Primeval Titan, Tassiger, and then Huge Eldrazi if you run into like Tron or something. But it really hits a huge percent, and it's the same way in Legacy. I think there was 5 Legacy cards of the top 50 that this doesn't kill, assuming you can crack a fetch before you play it. So I think this is extremely good, and you don't have to pay the life like you do with Dismember. This is 1 mana, kill your infect creature or affinity creature without taking 4, that's a huge deal. Like, you do lose games over the long run because you have to turn 1 or turn 2 Dismember paying life. So I think that in Modern, I would play this over Dismember in a lot of decks. Assuming they're black and they can cast it, of course.
Yeah, actually, you have a pretty good argument. I mean, if you're... Yeah, it would likely kill anything that you were going to Dismember anyway.
Yeah, I think the Reality Smasher is the one card.
Right, yeah. Reality Smasher, yeah.
Tarmogoyf?
Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, this kills Tarmogoyf, never mind.
This kills Tarmogoyf, yeah.
Kills Tarmogoyf straight up, which is actually a big deal. You can...
Yeah,
because if you have a Lightning Bolt, you can't kill Tarmogoyf on the draw sometimes in certain scenarios. So it is a big deal. And the question is, would you pay 1 more for non-conditional removal? Like, how many 1-mana removal spells do you need in your deck?
In Modern, being 1 mana is such a big deal in a world with Infect and Death Shadow, all these like become immense pump spell kill decks. 1 mana is like really key.
Yeah, hitting Inkmoth is a big deal. Like, I would consider removing Abrupt Decays for this, because Abrupt Decay is the saddest card in existence when you're getting killed by Inkmoth Nexus. But then you just randomly run into Lantern Control and be super sad that you don't have Abrupt Decays in your deck. So it'll be interesting how the pros build their decks and how they distribute the removal now. But this is definitely a strong contender, and something basically all decks that play black need to consider and look at now, for Modern at least. What do you think about Standard? Main deckable?
Oh, in Standard, this card is so important to Standard because it kills Smuggler's Copter for 1 mana. Like, that's been the focus has shifted towards Emrakul and Aetherworks as being the cards people really want answers to. But Copter is still the #1 most played card. I just looked at it. 62% of Standard decks are playing it as a 4 of. So just for that reason alone, having main deckable hate for a Copter, it's really good. Also gets Grimflayer and a lot of other random creatures. So even if you hit one of the 38% where there's no Copter, you're still likely going to have a target unless you're in a like hardcore control matchup. And even then, most of your removal is not going to be very good. And you could still catch like a Thing in the Ice or something. So I think this is easily main deckable in Standard because of Smuggler's Copter primarily.
All right, last question. Odds that this is an F&M promo at some point?
Oh, that would be awesome, but I doubt it. We'll get I don't know, just pick some random uncommon no one plays.
No, I know we're getting a Skyweaver Elite.
Oh yeah, sweet.
Just for you, Chaz.
Elite, yeah, you gotta my 3-mana 2/2 reach. Listen, the only reason I tweeted that is because it was the only card with Revolt. But it was the only green card with Revolt, so I had to choose, and obviously I have to choose green. So.
All right, let's move on to more playable spoilers. Next, we got SRAM's Expertise. I hope that's how you pronounce SRAM. Sam? Ram? Wow, maybe one of those is science. We'll go with SRAM. Sam. It's just Sam. 2 white, 4 converted mana cost, sorcery. Create 3 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature tokens. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost.
I'm actually glad this is a cycle. So this pretty much confirms this is a cycle.
So we only had one other, which is Yahenni's, right?
Yeah, Yahenni's. I would be really surprised if this is not a cycle. When we saw the original card that it was just built to be a cycle. Like it felt every color will get one. For 4 mana, 3 artifact creatures and a card. That seems all right. I just where this fits in immediately, but it's not a terrible card.
I learned, thanks to Twitter, that you can't actually play this, get the tokens, and then use it to surge a Reckless Bushwhacker, which would have been super awesome, because you can't pay 2 alternate costs, apparently, somehow. I don't know. Some rule disallows that, which made me very sad. With this card, mostly like Yahani's Expertise, I'm interested in the combo potential of casting something for free. If there's one thing that Wizards occasionally messes up and makes really broken 2 good cards, it's when it involves casting stuff for free. So as a value card where you're just making tokens and, I don't know, putting a Oath of Ajani on the battlefield, it's fine. But this is another card where I could imagine there being a broken combo, if not in Standard, then in Modern, just like with Yahani's Expertise.
Yeah, I think
Fair
this
enough,
card
yeah.
is broken. I mean, it's probably not broken because all the colors will have something equally broken to do. But I think it's going to lead to so many feel-bad games. It's, in my opinion, basically taking an extra turn, right? It's one of these like super tempo boosts where you basically get to cast 7 mana's worth of spells, except this is an aggressive card. So you can go 3 servos, cast Nissa, pump the team, 3 servos, Liliana, kill your guy. You're basically taking an extra turn right after this without getting to draw a card and without undoing Summoning Sickness. So I think that tempo boost, if you're not sitting with the Fumigate in hand, well, you're just gonna die, right? Like imagine if they SRAM's Expertise, raise the alarm next turn, Oath of Ajani, and just hit you, right? Like you need to have the answer right then and there, and if you don't, you're gonna die. And this just creates games that like snowballs out of control immediately. So I really don't like this huge tempo swing that you get from this card. And I think there's going to be a lot of feel-bads. I think there's going to be a lot of non-interactive games in Standard with people casting spells for free out of nowhere. It's like basically you gave them a Black Lotus. Yeah, right? Black Lotus with the stipulation you use it on turn 4, and Black Lotus is a banned and restricted card for some reason, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But to me, this seems like a big no-no. So we'll see how this fast mana actually plays out.
Yeah, I don't know. It does definitely... It's powerful enough that it's going to lead to some blowouts, as you mentioned, and we already have blowouts in Standard that are really unfun, so maybe that makes it better in our current Standard format. That someone tweeted to me, we were talking about the spoilers earlier, and some of the new vehicles, and they mentioned Loop and Prototype, and they gave me the curve in Standard, and it was basically like 1-drop Loop and Prototype into whatever random 3-drop, and then turn 4, your opponent kills you. So this is just another turn 4, your opponent kills you card, along with many that we have in this Standard. So maybe that's just what the Standard format's going to be about.
You can SRAM's Expertise. You drop a Heart of Kieran, and now you got three little 1/1s to crew it.
Combo.
So yeah, combo. Yeah, I again, we'll have to see this set, but in the coming months, because Aether Revolt will be in Standard for quite some time. So I'm assuming there will be something really good to do by the end of this set or in the sets following to do with these Expertise cards, at least in Standard. In Modern, like you said, Seth, there's always something to be had whenever you cast stuff for free. There's always that chance that something can be spawned from that and be extremely unfair. So we'll wait and see.
What do you guys think about black-white tokens? Is this a thing?
I mean, the white-black Fabricate deck has been like pseudo-playable, and that's without having the new additions from Aether Revolt. So I think that it's possible with your favorite 0/1 for 3, Chaz. You've been high on that card ever since it was spoiled.
Oh my God. You're right. You get for 4 mana, you get an 0/1 and 4 1/1s.
5, I think, because it makes 2. Yeah.
Oh right, it makes 2. You get 5 1/1s. Sign me up. Yes.
All right, moving on
but
to SRAM Senior Edificer, 1 and a white, legendary creature, Dwarf Advisor. He's a 2/2. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card.
So if you like Pure Steel Paladin, you'll like this card.
I I like it
Go
with
ahead.
Pure Steel Paladin. That's one of the things I'm most excited about is Pure Steel Paladin decks in Modern are actually really powerful, but they aren't very playable because you have to play a lot of bad equipment and your deck does nothing without Pure Steel Paladin. But having 8 Pure Steel Paladins essentially might mean those decks could actually be somewhat competitive. They're not going to break the format, but I could imagine with having 4 of these along with 4 Pure Steel Paladins that you could be able to go to an F&M and actually expect to perform well with the Pure Steel like Storm equipment deck.
Yeah, I'm optimistic on that front. The only problem is just the redundancy. Like, it is legendary, so you can't play multiples like you can with Pure Steel Paladin. But I mean, I think this is good enough. Good enough for standard. Like you said, it could be great as an additional 4 of in the Pure Steel Paladin decks in Modern. In standard, I think it's good enough to slot at least a couple of these in your deck just to keep yourself card advantage if you're playing a white-based aggressive list. You have all these really great equipment. It obviously is awesome with Smuggler's Copter and all this stuff. So I think it's good enough. I don't know if it's a full 4 of card, but it certainly can be a good 1 or 2 of card for sure.
And it's a dwarf, so you get the benefits.
Definitely, yes, from Depala.
Yeah, so that's
Right,
another, I guess, vote in confidence of maybe it being playable. I think you're right. You're not going to stack a whole bunch of those in your deck because of the legendary thing, but as a 1 or 2 of, sometimes drawing a card from your Smuggler's Copter and sometimes finding it with your Depala probably makes it worth a slot in like red, white, or Mardu vehicles.
Right, exactly. I'm with you there.
So no one's going to talk about how absurd this is for EDH? It's Pure Steel Paladin that's legendary. You know, people always ask, if there's a creature that's non-legendary that you want to make legendary, what it would be. I'm pretty sure Pure Steel Paladin's up there somewhere. And here we go. And it's a dwarf as well. And it triggers off vehicles. And he has a pipe.
But
anyone surprised by this? I'm actually surprised there's a dwarf smoking a pipe on a Magic card.
I didn't realize that's what it was. Is that it? Is that even a pipe?
What would it be? It's the pipe, no? He might not be smoking tobacco. He might be smoking ether.
Thing you've seen.
No, have you guys followed League of Legends? There was a character that smokes a cigar, and they removed the cigar because they didn't want to endorse, tobacco or whatever. So I thought, in today's modern world, we're no longer allowed to depict smoking, but here we are, dwarves smoking, smoking the ether on Kaladesh.
Smoking some ether, yeah. That's Hey, listen, this is still the game that you play at your cafeteria table, and everyone thinks you're like Satanist, demonic. Like, did you see some of the art back then? They thought like, oh, what is this? Like, what was that black card? The something hordes, something like that. That card still gives me nightmares. Demonic hordes or something. I think it was called. It was literally like that, and people were like, "What is this game?"
Yeah, but this card, legendary Pure Steel Paladin, and legendary. I guess it's not really core Spirit Walker or Enchantress, but it's also that effect. If it was more colors, it'd be even better. If it somehow had green and red in it, then you can go all out on all of these themes. But I think this will be a pretty sweet EDH card.
It forces you to play mono white though, which is probably fine for you, Richard, because you played mono white more than anyone in the history of Commander.
It's white card advantage. It's therefore like the greatest card ever made.
I can't do mono EDH decks. I just can't. It's so.
But boring. Your mana base is so cheap. Just leave up 40 planes.
You're absolutely right. You're right.
All right, next card we have Whir of Invention. X blue blue blue. Instant improvise keywords, so your artifacts can help cast this spell. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
So essentially, Court of Calling for artifacts.
Yeah,
for an artifact card.
Just what we needed. A card that lets you tap your puzzle knots to find Aetherworks Marvel in Standard. That sounds like a great idea, Wizards. Thank you for printing this.
The obligatory Colossus deck. So out there. This Colossus deck is suddenly the most insane deck we've ever seen, according to Seth. Look at all these cards. You got Tezzeret, you got Word of Invention. Just watch out for these Colossus decks.
As soon as I saw this, the first thing I thought of was eggs in Modern, because they already used Reshape to search out Lotus Blooms, and you basically want as many Lotus Blooms as you can get because they make so much mana when you reanimate them. And while it's not necessarily obvious because Reshape is 2 mana to get it, so you actually net a mana. Even just paying 3 mana to get a Lotus Bloom is mana neutral, and you get that Lotus Bloom in your graveyard, so you essentially have 8 reshapes now in eggs, which could actually be something that pushes that deck towards being playable, which I don't know if that's a good thing, because if you ever played against eggs, it's got to be one of the most miserable experiences in all Magic, but I think this could have a home in Modern thanks to eggs.
Yeah, perhaps. Although I think they're always going to miss Second Sunrise. That was really the glue of the deck. But you're right. Maybe this kind of revitalizes that archetype. I'm not emphatically that it will right now, but it obviously can't hurt.
I don't like where this is going. Are you telling me 2017 will be the year of like Lantern Control versus eggs?
Oh.
Yep.
I was actually thinking more standard. This seems pretty good. Like Seth said, you have these random artifacts sitting around, so why not just tutor up your Aetherworks Marvel? Works with clue tokens as well. So you will have no shortage of artifacts if you're looking to tutor something up. It's interesting that they printed this card with Marvel being kind of the boogeyman of the format. I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe there's some other card we'll see that somehow keeps us all in check. But seems pretty strong, and I'm surprised there's so many tutor effects and powerful effects. I thought Wizards kind of went away from the tutoring, but it makes decks more consistent, makes decks more powerful. So maybe we're in for a pretty powerful standard.
Also, on a less depressing note, this could be the card that makes Paradox Engine really consistent and playable in Standard, a combo deck with that, since you can use it to tutor up your Paradox Engine. So I like that aspect of it.
So what's worse, having Emrakul take your turn, or not having a turn at all because they're going infinite egg style and killing you?
Hey, listen, we haven't had combo in Standard. Now we have like 5 different combo decks. So they're like, you wanted combo decks? Here's combo decks. And there's just every single card is a combo. You could even, I'm sure you could do something with Aether Flux, Reservoir, or whatever that card is. So just have at it. Everything just gets a combo now. Yeah. You got Paradox Engine, you got the Reservoir, you got Aetherworks Marvel. Maybe this enables Aetherworks Marvel in Modern. Cracking all these eggs, you get the energy from Aetherworks Marvel. You tap Aetherworks Marvel, you get an Emrakul.
Yeah, I tried that before, and it was miserable. Even the problem wasn't necessarily tutoring; it's that when you miss Emrakul in Modern, you just die. It's not like Standard where you get a couple extra turns.
You could see it.
Yeah, literally. From a broader perspective, what is Wizards thinking? Like, why are we seeing a set that is full of free spells, obvious combo cards? Like, is this what Magic is going to be like going forward after having these relatively powered down standards recently, full of creature mid-range battles? Is this a change in design philosophy, or is this just a random set that happens to have all this stuff in it?
Well, I think in not so many words, if they want a variety of archetypes for I'm assuming what would be a format going forward, like in the future. I mean, you can't just have everything, and maybe if they have to jam pack one set just to get it all out there, then so be it. But it feels like they want, not only in Standard, but they just want to push multiple different archetypes just to kind of free things up a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is I'm not seeing really good counterspells. If you had counterspells, I wouldn't be too concerned because they were mentioning just like counterspell, cool, and that keeps them in check. Kind of the problem we have with Aetherworks Marvel today, where even a counterspell is not enough. You counter an Emrakul, they still get the trigger, and then they empty your hand, and then you die. So I'm all for power, as long as the power is distributed across all the colors. So hopefully we'll see really powerful cards in the other colors as well, and across the different archetypes. So, but it does seem like for this set, Wizards is powering it up. It seems like we're going to get consistency through tutors, faster mana through free spells, efficient cards like Fatal Push, it seems like the standard will be more powerful than the other standards. On top of, the absurdly broken things you have already, Gideon, Archangel Avacyn, Delirium, Smuggler's Copter, all that stuff is still there. So maybe the cards had to be this powerful, otherwise you wouldn't even play them, right? Like you wouldn't unseat Archangel Avacyn if there was nothing more powerful. So maybe Wizards knows what they're doing, and this will actually turn out okay. But I expect this to be a very powerful format.
You've said this a long time ago, Richard, that a pretty big reason why you haven't played such a long time is because you felt it was kind of watered down, right? Like you didn't feel like you can do powerful stuff. Maybe that's just how they attract new players, is that you're doing all this awesome stuff in Standard again.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is pretty sweet to play turn 4 Emrakul, but then if you're sitting on the other side of it, it's like really bad. So while it's fun when you're in the position of power, as long as everyone's in the position of power, it'll work out. So I'm hoping there's a good counterspell.
What do you think of Aether Revolt thus far with all the new spoilers? Are you excited, Richard? I feel like this is a set that you really like.
I like the cards, but for some reason, when I see a card now,
Right.
I automatically think EDH. And I see a lot of cool cards for EDH. Standard, everything looks so powerful. With the expertise cycle, fatal push, all of these quote-unquote broken artifacts, they all can't be broken, right? But like each one we see, it looks so powerful by itself in a vacuum. I'm really excited to see what happens. I'll be really disappointed if, at the end of the day, we end up with the same decks. Like, none of these cards are enough to spawn a new archetype. None of these cards boost existing archetypes, and you're still bashing, like, Delirium into Flash into Marvel. So I really hope that doesn't happen, and I'm seeing a lot of powerful cards here, and I'm curious how this fast mana expertise cycle plays out. I think it's going to be really bad, but maybe Wizards knows what they're doing. Maybe having a Black Lotus staple to a card is okay. We'll see.
I'm really excited for it. As someone who likes to brew decks, I like having lots of different powerful options, and just with a small fraction of the set spoiled so far, just looking over these cards, I'm like, oh, that could make its own archetype, be its own deck. Oh, that could be its own deck. So I'm really excited about the possibilities, because honestly, the last month or two, Standard has been kind of at its stale point, and it always gets like that towards the end of a format before a new set release, but this time maybe even more so than usual, with Aetherworks being so good and certain decks just being so much better than everything else. So seeing the power level of these cards actually makes me excited about brewing in Standard again, which I think is a good thing. So I like the set just for that reason.
It feels like this is going to be the trend going on, is that they want every set to be meaningful, right? Like, we've been through, maybe at the start of the 2-block cadence, and especially before that some of these sets just come out and there's just like one good card. I mean, Dragon's Maze really comes to mind in recent memory, where it's like you could basically just scrap the entire set and just Voice of Resurgence. I think they're doing a really good job, is that every set is meaningful. And yeah, like Standard, like you just said, Seth, it gets down to like Aetherworks, Marvel, and a couple decks, but they want that to be shaken up dramatically with every new set coming out. So I like the fact that it's just long enough to kind of be like, oh, like Aetherworks, Marvel, and like again, like, but just around the corner that these sets are coming out and that the Standard landscape will drastically change. So I really hope that they keep that trend going forward, because it looks like they're getting better at it. So,
Oh, one thing I want to throw in there. I'm excited to build a people falling off stuff EDH deck. Fatal Push is a great card. We got like Tragic Slip. There's like a bunch of cards of people falling down wells. Even like Night Market Aeronaut looks like this guy about to jump off like a building. So falling off stuff EDH 2017, it's coming.
awesome. I think that's it, gentlemen. So we will have more spoilers for next week. Again, everyone on YouTube, enjoy. This is the first time we're posting the cast on YouTube. Gentlemen, we will do this again next week with more spoilers. It's going to be awesome. All right, this is going to be the MTG Goldfish Crew signing out.